Garrett just gave it to you. There you go. The Pac-12 media poll is up. And again, this is a conference that could just be fantastic. USC, no surprise at 1. Washington, Utah, the two-time defending Pac-12 champion Utah Utes are 3. Then there's Oregon, Oregon State, not sneaky good, they're good. And then also UCLA at number 6, then Washington State, Arizona, Cal, Arizona State, Colorado with Dion, and Stanford at number 12.
Yeah, and that, Arizona's a team that a lot of people think is on the rise as well, but those top 7 are all really, really good teams that could make waves, and that's going to be interesting when it comes down to, if this was a 12-team CFP year, the Pac-12 would be lapping this up. And which I'm sure they should be excited about, because this is going to be a really good season for them.
If they stay intact, they still will, won't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not intact because USC and UCLA are leaving. So as far as this group of teams, you've got, if this is a 12-team year, you could bank that, you're going to a couple teams in the playoff with the kind of loaded schedule you have here. But now you have to worry about, do you get teams knocked out of the playoffs, because you're going to have, especially these teams at the top, trading some losses with each other.
Depending on who's playing whom, yeah, you're based on the schedule because you can't play everybody. Craig?
Well, that's what everybody thinks about the Big 12, or not everybody, but I've seen quite a few people that don't think the Big 12 will have a playoff team because they're just going to beat up on each other, which is, obviously a potential outcome. And that's a league that, if that were to happen, you wouldn't really be all that surprised by it. And I think the same can be said for the Pac-12, although with Caleb Williams there at USC and how much of a favorite they appear to be, which is pretty comfortable, number 1 there, especially as first-place votes go. I mean, that's the team that you circle as a CFP team with just what they've got coming back in the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and how they've retooled during the offseason. But, yeah, Washington's going to be really, really good. Had they been atop the poll, I wouldn't have really blinked. Utah, I mean, how can you deny what they've done? And they're still, geared up to be really good again this year. That's going to be a huge challenge in the non-con in week 2 for Baylor. We get to see them up close and personal. I'm looking forward to that. And then, Oregon's always around and only getting 1 first-place vote, but that just speaks to the rest of the conference for once, I think. They're usually up there near the top and one of the better teams in the league. I think that just speaks to Michael Penix and to Cam Rising and Caleb Williams, and that's just the quarterbacks, much less the other stars throughout those teams. But Chip Kelly and UCLA, they're not going to be an easy out for teams. They're at 6. Oregon State, like you said, very good team at 5. So that upper half is really good. And, there's some teams that are very big question marks, like Dion in Colorado, Dillingham in Arizona State, although he seems to really have some juice flowing through there right now. The bottom half, not nearly as – there's definitely a clear dividing line, I feel like, that you can make. But that upper half, that could be a real fight to see who emerges from that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
One of the things, honestly, is that when there were thoughts that George Kliavkoff may not mention anything about the media deal, he's going to have to answer questions or nothing would be announced. Part of that PR part was – well, we want to focus on the league and the games and the teams because we have so many good ones. And, well, that's in a way very legitimate. Now, people don't have to believe that, but they do as far as legitimate. Yes, absolutely they are. And, man, that's good. I would have been surprised had it been anyone else but USC at the top. Go back to that if you want. Look at the poll as far as the first-place votes. USC with a big chunk. Utah was 6, Washington with 4, Oregon got a vote, but USC with a massive amount. If you look at the overall amount, media poll who voted, they had that looks like a big drop-off between USC at 1 and Washington at 2. But with Penix, et cetera, back for Washington, they are going to be very salty.
Well, see, I think that's why it's even more distressing that you're rolling into Pac-12 media days and you cannot give all the good news. Because right now you've got a great league. You've got a league that is going to be as fun to watch as any in the country this year, especially if you like offense and quarterbacks and numbers, because, look down the list. There's, even the 11th place team has a quarterback that people are excited about, and Shadur Sanders. So
yep.
You've got a lot of really cool things happening in the Pac-12, but you have to say, hey, it's going to be great. I hope you enjoy us on TV for at least this year. And then you don't know because you have all these questions about the conference in the future. So you can't even build off the momentum because there's one bad thing that's happening in that two of those teams that are going to be so exciting, this is their last year in the league. And the second thing is you don't know how to tell people to watch your games in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, Texas was on top of the Big 12 poll, and that was okay because, I mean, I think everybody just expects them to be the better team in the Big 12 this year. A lot of people do. Obviously, enough people in the media to vote them number one. But I think the fact that the Big 12 secured their future does make that transition a little easier of a pill to swallow. And I do think as far as media days events go, it's like, yeah, they're on their way out. And, yeah, a lot of the talk about two of the schools is the fact that, hey, this is your last year. This is the last time you're doing this, last time you're doing that. But everybody else is like, that's okay. Like, we're good. Like, we know. Like, they're leaving, and that's, a bunch of national titles and Heisman winners, especially from one school. And, we won't have those anymore. And that's a blow, no doubt about it. But as far as, like, knowing where we're going to eat dinner every day and, and all of that and where the meals are coming from, like, we know we're going to be satisfied. And so everybody can go about their business and be happy. And I do think with the Pac-12, it would have been nicer. It doesn't ruin media day in my mind for fans, but it would have been nicer to, just walk in there and say, hey, USC's expected to be great. This is the last time this, last time that, whatever. But all the rest of the schools could at least like have their chest puffed out and feel like, yeah, we're going to lose some national titles. We're going to lose some accolades. But you know what? We're going to be fine. And unfortunately for them, they probably still feel that way mostly, but they can't be 100% for sure. And that sucks for those schools involved that, you can't walk into media days and just, be fully aware of, what you're going to be asked about and what that future looks like.
What's the difference then the way they feel than the teams that are left in the Big 12 once Texas and Oklahoma leave?
What do you mean?
As far as they're losing a bunch of national titles and all that as well.
Like I just said, is the fact that the Big 12 schools know their future. Yep. They know where their meal's coming from. They have a TV deal. They know that, yes, we're losing a lot, but we have
this.
But we have
this.
That's what I was saying is they know what their future looks like and where their games are going to be played and all of that. And the Pac-12 does not have that to fall back on. Yeah.
All right. By the way, you hear a lot about Georgia's schedule. What do you hear about Georgia's schedule, Paul?
Well, it's an easier one they've had in the past.
But they're in the SEC, right?
Yeah.
And there are some landmines. And sometimes the schedule can be beneficial based on who you're playing. Craig, you hear this, you're like, golly, it looks like it's easy. Nothing's ever easy. USC, San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, Arizona State, Colorado, and Arizona, their first 6 games. Then at Notre Dame, Utah, then there's Cal, and then Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. So the front part of their schedule allows them to lift off pretty quickly, put up, you would think, who knows, maybe there's a shocker there somewhere, but their first half of the schedule, that does seem to be not a cakewalk. It's also the way the conference schedule's set up, but that looks pretty simple.
Well, look, but I don't want to – if you told me my last 6 games were among them Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA, I'd be like, I don't know if
wouldn't you like to have seen that like spread out a little bit?
If I were USC, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if they're a great team, it's probably not going to bother them all that much, but – that is a gauntlet down the stretch.
It is.
Look, just comparatively to Georgia.
Notre Dame will be ranked by then, you would still think, no matter what. Utah, Washington, Oregon, and most likely that's 5 of the 6 will all be inside the top 25 and perhaps even much higher.
And look, I know that rankings change and things change throughout the year, but Georgia only has one stretch where they play back-to-back ranked teams right now, and that's Ole Miss, who's preseason ranked 22 and Tennessee at 11, which is going to be tough. I mean, it's a tough stretch, but until that point, which is 2 of their last 3 games, they don't have to play, back-to-back, tough teams, all season long.